I'm Dee Baranta, President and CEO of Northeast Florida Women Veterans. Today, we are celebrating Women Veterans Recognition Week, as well as commemorating the law that integrated women into the armed services. Back in 1948, it was Margaret Chase Smith and she was a congresswoman, who introduced this bill into Congress, and thankfully, President Harry Truman signed the bill, and women now are able to not only be considered part of the veteran community, but they also are getting equal pay and a host of other things. We're excited because today you'll be listening in on some of the women who have served in the military from different branches of services and different lengths of time in the service. And they'll be sharing their stories, some of their funny times, some of their challenging times while they were in, as well as the transitioning into civilian life. We think that this videoing is important to our women veterans, because if you're feeling down and you can look at this video and you'll say, you know, we're not alone. And we want you to know that you're not alone as well. So tune in, listen to what the women have to say, and I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us for our 2023 Her Voices segment, where we're honoring 75 years of women being integrated into the military armed services. We are here today with some phenomenal women veterans who have served a total of 183 years serving our country through a multitude of eras. Today, these fascinating women will share their experiences, their joys, and unfortunately, some of their challenges endured during their service. Ladies, let's have a fluid conversation about you. You ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. So if you don't mind, please share your name and actually what you did in the military.
Amy Collins, electronics warfare technician. Veronica Tutt, command master chief and logistics.
Amanda Conley. I started my career as an MP and finished up in the Army Recruiting Command.
Suzette Cujo-Hodge Johnson. I started off as a plane captain for Top Gun, and then I went into as an air traffic controller.
I'm Tina Medina. I started off as logistics, and I ended my career as a drug and alcohol counselor.
Alangela Sanders, logistics specialist in the United States Navy.
Jackie Rivera, started out as a yeoman and then went to finished off as an AC.
Wow, so phenomenal women. We have a lot of logistics, so if you need some things moved and done, we can do it. So anyone can answer any of these questions at any time. Are any of you the first woman to go into the armed services?
I am.
Okay, then what made you decide to join?
At that point, all the men in my family had served in the military in various branches. And I wasn't quite ready for college, didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up yet. So, you know, the military seemed like an obvious choice and kind of worked out pretty well. So there are two other women that enlisted after I did and have kind of helped to carry that family tradition.
Wow, so you set the stage for
I did,
after.
yeah.
That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Sure.
Yes, I'm the first female in my family. It's 6 kids in my family. I'm the first female in my family to go to join the military and to go to college. And then my 2 brothers followed behind.
Well, they say behind every great man, there's a greater woman. So you set the stage for your brothers. Wow, that is wonderful. Well, thank you for that. So we all know that we came from different eras, and there was different things going on in America at the time when we came in. How was America during the time regarding women's rights? Is there anyone who would like to share?
Well, for me, when I first joined, I'll just tap into that a little bit. Let me just go back a few steps to, I came from a different perspective. I was first female to join. I came from Trinidad, so it's a totally different, it's a culture shock. I joined when I was 17, so again, coming to America, joining the military, I wanted to serve my country, a country that gave me the opportunity to be where I am right now. And so, during that time, women were still kind of like the underdog, basically, and, when I served on the ship, we were one of the first wave of females to go on an aircraft carrier. So when you're talking, having to being able to show what you can do, you know, the men were looking at us. Had a separate berthing area, so they wanted to make sure that we went out there. So I used to bodybuild and compete and everything else just so I can be there, carrying chains, doing tie downs, just like they showed in the movies, so that I could basically prove myself to be worthy of being out there on an aircraft carrier as a plane captain.
Women have dealt with a lot of challenges through the years, and it seems like we're progressing. Does it seem like we've progressed a whole lot more, or we still have some ways to go?
I think we still have some ways to go, but I think we've made a lot of progress. You know, right now, there's a lot of women doing a lot more. We're able now to go to war, you know, and serve our country as well. We're out there right side by side serving our country with our counterparts, doing our best. And some of them have excelled past our male counterparts. So, you know, we've made a lot of progress. Yes, we still have a little more to go, you know, but yeah, I think we have.
I agree. Thank you so much. Does anyone else want to add to that before we move on? Okay, great. We all have so many different experiences in the military. Tell me something that you remember when it came to adapting to the military. I know we all have a different background. Some of us don't have family members that were in the military. Some of us came from college. Some of us came from different lifestyles. Some of us were a little rugged when we were kids. We talk about myself. However, tell us about how was it adapting to military life? Would anyone like to share?
I can speak on that. I was a 17-year-old going into the Navy, and it's a true story. The recruiter didn't look at my age, because as you know, you had to be 18 as a female when I went in, and I went in years ago, 72. I'm proud of that. Hey, I'm proud of that. And I was 17 years old, and the recruiter didn't look. So I did most of my boot camp, and someone looked at my record and said, "You're not supposed to be here." So on my birthday in August, they re-enlisted me. So I have about 4 different. They discharged me and re-enlisted me immediately back in, and I'm still in boot camp, mind you. So it was very, very, and I'm like, well, you know, maybe somebody trying to tell me something. Yeah, but they re-enlisted me right away, and so I would say, and I was supposed to be, I was in a program for officers. It was called Boost at the time for Navy, and everybody and we had to go to regular boot camp first. And they were, "Oh, you're gonna be an officer. You're gonna be an officer." Da 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 da, and couldn't swim a lick. Okay, and those of you that know, they put you on this tower and tell you to jump off. I'm telling you, my whole company left me because I was still on that tower. And they say they heard me scream outside the barracks when I finally did jump. They wouldn't let me off. Would not let me off. But it was interesting times. The 70s, as you well know, Vietnam War was just about to end. And it was, you know, and being a female too, it's just, it was open because they wanted more females then at that time. And they were trying to make it easier for us, but it was tough because of some of our male counterparts. And like you said, it's gotten a lot better, but it was very, very trying times during those, you know, first few years. Again, made it through the Boost program in San Diego, went to Marquette University, pledged my sorority, Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and lost the scholarship.
Oh, wow.
But I was, you know, and those of you that know, that's ROTC, And I was still a reservist. So, next thing I know, someone's calling me up because I'm on campus having a good time. You know, call me up, you owe us.
Oh.
You owe us. So I ended up going back active duty, enlisted. But you know, I got to come in a little higher because I had, you know, just finished a couple of years of college and things like that. So those are things that they did back then in those days. But oh my God, what a time. What a time to come in. Again, Vietnam War. When I was on campus, we weren't allowed to wear our uniforms because it was dangerous. There was a lot of people that were totally against the military. We, you know, those Vietnam veterans. And I'm thankful that this organization is honoring those people because, again, they weren't honored back then. You know, came home, it was ugly. So being adaptable and I can be here all day, so let me stop talking right now.
Thank you for sharing that, because I did not know that about you. Oh my God, you got several D214s, huh?
Yes.
What did you learn about people? Did you want to share a quick story of how you adapted?
Yeah, so for me, when I joined, it was after the towers were hit. And I was single parent in New York. And first female, same as, you know, other stories here. But the biggest difference was I joined to be able to help my son and get him out of New York and show him that there's more than just the streets of New York. And then after I joined and got in, and I started off also aviation, I realized very quickly that it was still very much a male dominating military. I had to work harder at a lot of things just to kind of show that I was capable and able. And I was even named for several years of my career, up until about 10, I'd say about 10 years of my naval career. Everywhere I went, for some reason, I was named Mama Medina. And I'm like, okay, is it because, you know, I'm constantly just like on top of them, letting them know what needs to be done? And I realized it's not just that. They saw me because I was a older female, because I joined at 28. They didn't join early. I waited till my son was old enough to be with my mom and say, I need to use the bathroom, you know. But because of that, I being a female already with a child and being in, and then they started to learn also that I had a career before that. So they put me to do things that they knew, according to my skills and according to my age, I would be able to do. So I just sort of became this, you know, higher hierarchy for females, even though I didn't ask for it. So it was one of those things that they kind of saw as putting me in a leadership position per se, without me even saying that. So that in itself showed me how much they were struggling to try to figure out, you know, integrating females still on the ship and in aviation. And I'm pretty sure throughout the career, because I also went boots on ground and when talking with a couple of my other Army counterparts, they were struggling with the same thing. So yeah, it was quite a bit of a struggle. And this was 2002. So with 20th century, like we were still struggling. But I'd say after 20 years now, yeah, we still have a ways to go, but we've come a long way, a long way.
It seems like everyone has a consistent story where it was challenging. There were some challenges with adapting.
Yeah.
Especially coming from, depending on how you grew up, and then coming into something that's so structured, but still as not welcoming, because we are was challenging itself. So let's kind of shift gears just a little bit. Can someone give their favorite memory about the military? Because I know there was some challenging times, but there also was some good times because many of us stayed in quite a bit. So who has a favorite memory to share?
Some of my fondest memories are deployment now. Yes, I did 29 years. And I was fortunate enough to do 2 deployments. And I think my fondest memories were those early times that I spent in the military and on deployment. Back then, we were able to visit numerous countries. And it was just a blast then. You know, we pulled into places all over Europe, Middle East, and it was just phenomenal to go, to travel from Chicago and to have the ability to experience all of these different, places and cultures and, the friends and the memories that were made along the way, are priceless. And so I would never, ever, forget those memories and, the experiences learned along the way.
Wow. So I will say this before the next person. I'm jealous of the Navy. To travel to different places. I was Army, so I went to one place, stayed there, seemed like forever. Like 7 years in one place. So I am jealous of all the Navy people. Yes, I admitted this live. You get to see so much of the world and so many different places and experiences. So thank you for sharing that with us. Does anyone else want to share?
I have a funny one, and I think this goes back to some of us here, age group wise, that when they had the boombox out, do you remember the old,
Yes.
they call it ghetto blasters back then, New York style, Anyway, what we did is, first time on the ship, here we were, and we finally got a break, so we got in with the cooks, the MS, they call MS at times. And so we got in with the cooks and we got free donuts, all that stuff, coming down in the morning, all that stuff. We went late at night, right after we launched all the birds off, which are the aircraft basically. And this was during Top Gun time. Here we went underneath underneath where the cat was launching, and we had a room and we took all our strobe lights, which we're supposed to use in the water. We put our strobe lights on at different times and put the boombox on, and everyone was like having fun and dancing and making. It was so much fun. Oh my gosh, that particular part, we were all dancing and having a good time. Not that when birds were coming back in, we were just rushing up, after having this great time. But that was one of my greatest moments, fondest moments in the military, being under the cats right after we launched late at night, or even going out aft, on the ship and just watching the stars. You're just one little bleep in the middle of the ocean, even though the ship is huge. And yes, I still got seasickness, I still had to wear my patch, but you're just and you're going after, all you're doing is see stars. It's just so beautiful. I was hoping to see a mermaid, but I didn't see it.
So I don't really like ships too. That's why I stayed on land.
Now.
She played hard.
Most of it also the Air Force. So the Air Force as well.
So my favorite was doing swim call.
Oh,
How many
yes.
have participated in that?
No.
So this blows everyone's mind out is when we have an opportunity to have swim call, drop anchor, and we jump off the ship and go swim.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they have the boats out with the gunner's mates.
Yeah.
With the, just to look out for sharks while we're swimming. So, yes.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I have an issue with heights, and I always struggled with upper arm strength. I always underestimate my upper arm strength. So after jumping in, there's no nice fancy ladder. You're climbing up the ropes to get back onto the ship. So you're completely relying on your upper arm strength, and I had to do it. So I did it one time, but I did it in Bahamas. We were off the coast of the Bahamas, and we did swim call, and it was amazing. It was so amazing. So
I'm getting even more. Have to talk. Thank you so much for sharing those stories. I think everyone's gonna be a little bit jealous. Also, I know some of you talk about deployments. And I know it is a different experience depending on what branch you're in. How many of you have been on deployment?
Maybe.
Okay, so being on deployment, one, I would say, did it change your life returning from deployment as far as your family structure or just the way that life was in general? Who would like to share?
I'll go first with that one, because this one's a little bit touching for me. I remember my first deployment. Of course, I was, other than being on the ship and everything, actual deployment and from a VP squadron. I breastfed to the last minute before I went on the plane. So that was hard. I think my daughter was 4 months because they gave me an opportunity to stay an additional 2 months. So I stayed until she was 4 months and I breastfed the last second before I got on that aircraft. And one of the hardest things, and all our female veterans are always, they know, oh, what the. And I'm like, okay. And here I am just swollen going, oh my God, what's going on here? You know, I'm feeling it, but it was just so hard for me. So I do the shit. And I was like, that was one of those moments. But coming back was one of the most painful and painful, not in a really, really bad way, but it's a realistic way. My daughter didn't know me. And my mom, bless her soul, you know, I was adopted. So she clung to her. And that was my sanction. It was because I knew that my mom loved me so much and she loved my mom. So when I went out, reached out to grab her, she was like pulling away. And that just broke my heart. Tears started rolling down my eyes. That was just heartbreaking. So for all the women that do go out there, I know the mail comes in, they run, you see those pictures with the males, you know, the kids running up and hugging, but for a woman, it's a little bit different. You know, we're nurturing, so we're looking for that emotional connection that we get with our children. And for my daughter, she looked at me and she was like, who are you? I don't know. So that was really heartbreaking. But other than that, you know, speeding forward to some of the other deployments where they'll go, of course it's a role reversal because now the husband's at home and the wife is gone, or, you know, if you're single, you know, you have other family members taking care of the kids and you come back and they're like, you know, Mom, we really missed you. We felt like we didn't have you around. And they're, you know, you see the different dynamics that come around. They're now dependent on these other people and you come back in and you're trying to fit in and you don't. So you have to acclimate, and it's nothing against you. It's the fact that you're trying to just, you know, hey, be a part of that. No, grandma's got it. Or, you know, you're trying to help all the homework or you're trying to cook something, you know, we like the way grandma makes it or whatever, you know. So you do feel that emotional detachment when you come back, but then it does. Eventually it takes time and you do get back into the swing of things again. Of course, then you guys go back again. But, you know, that's kind of like some of the gist of it from an emotional type perspective, you know, where you know that your children do love you, you know that you're going to get that love and you reach out to hug, but you start seeing them hugging others, and you're like, okay, that's my kid, okay, you know, you get kind of jealous, you know, that I will say the jealousy is there, but you know, it's not a bad jealousy. It's, you know, the fact that you really just want that connection with your children.
I experienced that as well. Anyone else like to share?
I would just say that, though I enjoyed my deployments and I hit some phenomenal places, when I hit the United States of America, I was ready to kiss the ground.
Yes.
Because there is no place that I would rather be than to be here in the United States. So yes. I enjoyed the deployments. A lot of places were beautiful, but when we came home, oh my God, yes, I was so happy and blessed that I was from the United States and able to serve, you know, in the United States. Deployment, yeah, you know, yeah, it's a challenge. It was, a lot of just being away from home. On both my deployments, I remember pulling out like 2 days before Thanksgiving. And I thought, why would they do this? I was young. And so it was my first deployment and I was just couldn't believe, that we'd be pulling out. I'm missing Thanksgiving. I'm about to miss Christmas and blah, blah. And the only thing I think about was me, why would we be doing this? And I always reflect back when, before joining the military and, my family, because I am the first female to join the military for my family. And I remember when I told them I was gonna join the military, they were looking at me like, are you sure you wanna do that? Do you know what you're getting yourself into? And realistically, at that time, I didn't know. And I don't think you ever really realize what you're getting yourself into until you're actually there,
Mhm.
and then you're learning.
Yes.
And once learning, what I was doing and the importance of what I was doing. The military, we serve in, 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
And you don't really understand that until you're actually doing it.
Yes.
And once that clicked in and I realized, we have people deployed every day of the year.
Yes.
Every day, right now, someone is defending our freedom. And so it doesn't matter that it's 2 days before Thanksgiving or whatever, someone has to go. And it's an honor to actually go. And once you realize that and you grasp that, it's a little bit easier to deal with the deployments and everything. Because yes, while I'm away, my child and my family is, they're being protected.
Well, now I would like to talk about, we discussed how it was adapting in the military, coming into the military and your experiences. Now we would like to ask, how was it transition from military back into the civilian sector? Who would like to share?
It was a nightmare. Because when I retired, I was in Pensacola. And so the first thing I did was sign up for a temp agency. And so every job that I went in for, they kept saying, well, you deserve more money or we can't afford to pay you. And that's when I decided I needed to leave Pensacola. And then I came over to Jacksonville. My first job was for Ernst & Young doing the Y2K, the CSX. Yep, straight right out. Yep. Came here a year after I retired and got that job. And that was amazing.
Wow.
I was the highest paid temp they ever had at the temp agency. The only one that traveled back and forth to Atlanta. So I set a lot of tones with the company, and then they wanted to pick me up permanently. I was not moving my kids to Atlanta. My kids were Atlanta. They never lived in a city, and I didn't want to do that. And I promised them that they wouldn't move. So, and I was already building my house, and it's a transition. It was. I turned out a really good job.
Sacrifice
for our kids. Yeah.
Wow. Would anyone else like to share?
Well, for me, it was more or less, I went into the reserves because as an air traffic controller, I couldn't cross the picket line. That was during that time. So we couldn't cross the picket line. So I went from one spectrum to another. I ended up going from aviation into the medical field. So I started off at University Hospital, which is now called Shands. And I started off from the bottom into billing. It was quite a transition, but being reserve, I was still getting part of the military and part of civilian. So I was acclimating a little bit. Again, 17 joined the military, that's all I knew. So years later, here I am, trying to tap into what civilian would be here in America. Again, is from a totally different background, trying to still acclimate, coming from another country into the US and going, wow, this is what people do outside. This is not, you're looking going, wow, this is really different. When I finally got out there, because I went to the officers program, and what happened then is they started downsizing. So I got my bachelor's degree in aviation management. I went to Cecil Field and I was going every weekend. This was an accelerated program. And I was the only female in that class. It was male dominated. So when I got my bachelor's in aviation management, they offered me a job in Chicago, O'Hara. And it was good money, but I wasn't going to move. Seniority would take me 15 years before I could even get back here to Florida. I was going to do that. I just bought a house too. No, wasn't going to do that. But what was more interesting is, like what she said, I'm tired of hearing I was overqualified. They now they have a way where they can actually put your MOS into what civilian it would qualify for. But then we did so much,
Yes.
because you have your males at your mechs and you have things, but you had leadership skills, you had communication stuff that you did skills, you had so many different venues that we have experienced throughout our career, You know, because that old saying TAD, the temporary assigned duties that you get when you go into different areas. So you're like looking like, okay. And they look at you going, I'm sorry, man, but you're overqualified. One of the companies that I will say that actually, because I've had 2 other jobs after that transitioning. But one of the companies I have to say is Ally Financial. And why I mention them so much, anything, is because they gave an opportunity and asked one of the guys when he was interviewing me, says, you know, and I went to a, what do you call those things? It's a, when they had the job fairs and stuff like that, the military job fairs. And that's how come I found that job. So I went to a military job fair and there were people out there that were doing, and back in the day, some of those people weren't even aware of computer going online and, you know, getting your stuff done. You have your resume in your hand, you get all the stuff lined up. So when you're talking about going there, you're trying to translate your military into then explain to them what you did, you know, and they were like, okay, we get it. And then they're asking, well, why do you want to be here? Why do you want to work? Why do you want to start off on the bottom? I said, to learn my way up, you know, and that was one of the things that, and I've worked my way up in Ally. And so it makes it really easy when you have companies that have leadership in addition to that are military based, and they know exactly what you've been through, that they can actually say, hey, this is, and they maybe have a plan or a program available out there, including employee resource group, which helps you acclimate from military to civilian, you know, and you have that old quote unquote buddy system to where somebody, you know, you'll meet somebody, hey, I was in the military too, let me show you the ropes in civilian. Other than that, you're just lost. You're on your own. So, you know, for me, I'm thankful that I had a better transition when I started off with Ally Financial, as opposed to, you know, the other jobs, you just go in, you know, when I worked at the hospital, just go in and you do. And yeah, we as females and strong females, I see a whole bunch of us here, you know, we get in there and we go, regardless of whatever, we're gonna take it, you know, that old saying, you know, the quote unquote old sayings that we have something about a ball, you know, type thing, and get out there and we get into it. And that's basically what we all did, I'm quite sure, because we're all here, you know, we get out there and we do what we need to do to survive. And that we're in survival mode. You know, we get out there and we just get in there, and whatever they say we have to do, we get out there and we do it 10 times better, if not even more than that.
Yeah, we hear a lot of the stories when it comes to transition. Some people say it takes years to transition back into the civilian sector, depending on how long you're in the military, because you're reconditioned.
Yeah.
How about learning how to dress?
Yes.
I mean, you're in the military, right? They issue you what we're supposed to wear. I've got 20 years of wearing exactly what the Army told me to wear. And now I'm in the civilian sector, I have no idea how to dress. I have no clothes, jeans and t-shirts don't cut it. So, you know, you have to learn how to dress and how to buy a new wardrobe and learn what's appropriate in this particular business. So it can be its own challenge. Learn how to wear makeup. We don't do that very often.
So
Just
glad
this.
you brought that point up, because the next question was, what were the processes, the routines, techniques, things you did to try to acclimate back into the civilian sector, just like you stated, just clothing. I know all I had was sweatpants and military issue, and I was like, who am I now?
Right. Actually, I flipped it. When I got that job with the CSX for the Y2K with Ernst & Young, I flipped it. I took what I learned from the military into my job. And when all the people were coming in to work on the project, they were staying in hotels. Well, I made everybody get apartments. So I went out on my own and found apartments for all of them to stay in. And no one shared one. They all had their own apartment. And they had a maid to come in and clean once a week. And I had all the keys. So they had to check in with me, like I flipped it. I took the Navy's way of doing things and added it to the company. And they nominated me for an award with the other consultants. And I was a temp.
Wow, very good.
Yeah, I saved them a lot of money, and they were mad because they weren't getting their points from the hotel. And I stopped all of that. They had rental cars, you know, but I still saved them money by putting them in those apartments. I filled up one whole apartment complex, and then I had to go to another one in Bay Meadow, and I had everybody standing over there, and I had all the keys. It was nice. They were really impressed with the way I did and the way I had them check in. like they do when we're in the military.
Right.
You gotta check in, or you have a sponsor. You know, I flipped it and took what I learned and brought it into the civilian sector.
And that's why we say there's a benefit to hiring. people
It is.
that come to us. Because we take everything we learn and we make it work. Actually, we make every company better.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's my opinion. I'm saying.
They
Also,
didn't
They
got great at
So with taking the military experience and coming into the civilian sector, we still have to learn how to self-care. Because we didn't do that. So what are some things that you ladies have put in place to benefit in one professionally and also for your own self-care? What routines and techniques did you put in place after transitioning out?
I would say for me, that was actually a difficult part for me. So it was a challenge, and then I had to learn to do that part. I was so grateful when I got out that I found actually this organization. When I work for them now, and that was through the program. Actually, I enjoyed one of their programs that I was able to speak out and say, I'm not comfortable because I'm struggling. And what I'm struggling with, employment, I'm struggling with figuring out what to do with myself right now. I'm at home, I have so much to do, but yet feel like there's not enough time. Then I feel like there's too much time. So I was all over the place. However, I had to learn to take myself and ask myself the same question you said earlier. Who am I? Who am I now? What are my interests now? What can I give? And what can I receive back? Because it's not just about giving, it's also about receiving, right? So my thing was I had to first find myself and say what I needed peace with. And I needed peace with my mind. I needed to get my mind straight. I needed to get myself in a better position mentally so that then everything else started falling in place. I was able to start looking for it. I was able to organize myself. I was able to find the time to do things. So for me, it really came down to doing that self-care for me personally, mentally first. Then, of course, I go get my nails done. You know, but it all started with my mind. I was so still running when I got out. And I just retired in November. So I'm still learning to take myself and take that moment to say, breathe. It's okay to breathe. But just like everybody else said, in my opinion, that we come out of the military, we're still running. We're still trying to slow down.
Yep.
But that was, for me, that's what it was. I had to really take the time to self-care. Myself was mental.
Thank you for sharing that. You're right. We have to work on the inward man first before we work on the outer. And it does start with the mind. And again, the military reconditions us. So we have to get back into reconditioning the conditioning. Well, does anyone else want to share before we continue? What techniques, what routines helped you to get back acclimated?
I jumped right into motherhood after I transitioned out. So I kind of delayed the who am I? What am I doing when I grow up process for quite a while. And it was a couple of years ago when I really started focusing on the fact that my boys are older and ready to transition out into the world on their own. So I had to sit there and say, what do I need to do? Everything's noisy. I have 4 sons. It's always noisy. So I had to learn to make a quiet place for me to disconnect and just have that time alone, that inner working. So I've taken a couple of different, relearned a few of the hobbies I had growing up and reading. I stopped doing a lot of joyful reading recreational reading. Because I was so focused on the education and because I homeschooled. So a lot of my reading was professional, personal development, education related, but there was no fun in it. So I had to learn how to just do something fun for myself. So that's what I had to do to help myself. So
Wonderful, yeah. So, you know, I like to color. Yes, I'm an adult that colors. That's one thing that I enjoy doing with my grandchildren. So I completely understand. Yes, I have grandchildren. So something that you stated earlier was about resources. So according to statistics, and of course we got this information from the VA National Center of Veteran Analysis and Statistics. Women veterans differ from male veterans, of course, in employment and in financial status. Unemployment with our women coming out is 4.2% compared to our male counterparts at 4.4%. However, more of our female veterans are in poverty at a rate of 9.4% compared to men at 6.4%. The median earnings are $40,000 compared to male counterparts at $50,000. When it comes to resources, and when it comes to this dilemma that our women veterans are facing, one, what can you ascertain is attributing to this issue, this dilemma, and what resources can assist with finding a solution?
Okay, let me attack that one. Let me attack that one first. I remember when I got out, there was no resources, very minimal, because my transition was only a week, basically maybe a week and a half or a couple of days, because they wanted to get in and get out. So it was just hurry up and let me show you this is civilian life or whatever, and you go do this, you know. They gave you just enough, according to them, to get you acclimated to civilian life. Well, it really didn't help. It was just that. And I'm grateful that this organization has opened up a venue for female veterans, because when you think about it, I'm going to speak of it from two different perspectives. One, the availability of resources in reference to, you know, finding jobs and you're juggling between parenthood and finding a job, and also the mental health aspect of it, okay? The mental health aspect of it is women have PTSD, but regardless of whether we have PTSD, we still have to go and struggle every day and support our family, you know? And some of it where you have the male counterparts say they get divorced because they're having PTSD. Well, we have to have PTSD and we still have to deal with our families.
Yeah.
So we still have to have that extra strength. They say that women are very empowered, and we are, because even though we're not making that much, and they say that the poverty level, well, what happens is we ask a friend, because as a female, if you have a family, you say, hey, do you mind if I stay on your couch or your room or whatever for a couple days? And they jump from place to place. And yes, they're homeless. So then they're not considered homeless. They're considered moving. So it makes it really hard. And they're suffering from PTSD. So now they have homes, and through this organization, through others that are, you know, the awareness is being widespread. So now they're aware that we go through that as well. And we have to get in there and use some of these resources. But back then, no, there was very minimal resources available. And then you have the female aspect, like you said, you have female issues, you have MST, military sexual trauma. You have so many other things that is not addressed. You know, not saying that male counterparts didn't experience that. I'm not taking that away. That would be devalidating them. But when you look at it, you have so many different other things that we go through that the males don't have to. So that's just my little thing, and I'm sticking to it.
I'd like to jump in on this one. So I think there's one, when we're in the military, we get equal pay for equal work, right? You get paid based on rank, not based on what job you're doing or anything else, right? There's there's nothing ambiguous there. It's pretty straightforward. So as we come out and transition into civilian sectors, a lot of the men know how to negotiate for pay raises, right? Or they know how to negotiate their salary range. or they know how to invest, or they're already working on building that generational wealth. Well, we're missing out on a big piece of that, right? So a lot of times women don't know how to negotiate for salary, or we're just happy to get a job. So I'll take whatever you're giving me at this point because I got a family, I need a job. So that's what we're focused on instead of that long-term side. And in civilian sector, women are still earning, what is it, 30% less than men? Is that still accurate, right?
Yes.
So that's a big contributor to that poverty level. And the biggest contributor to women in poverty is divorce. When in a 2-income family, we need those both incomes now to survive.
Yes.
Suddenly here we are divorced, we have the kids. What are we doing? That's cut in half. So now we're working, we're trying to get daycare and still don't know how to save money or budget properly or even run a household. So there are a lot of contributors to that. So education is a big piece. I really think education is a big piece, and a better transition program when we leave the military would help to, if we're prepared for that, because sometimes we're not. Or other organizations like this one, like Northeast Florida Women Veterans, if we can get women to ask for help. So we don't ask for help. We crash and spread couches. I'm just as guilty. I retired and I did with the military. I completely disconnected from the military community. I'm done. I get a paycheck every month. Thank you very much. That's all I need, and I'll figure this out on my own because I was taught to figure things out on my own. So how do we fix that? There's the challenge.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say now, and I'm on the base, I volunteer on the base currently. There are so many programs that are available that we did not have. Absolutely. And just getting people to know those programs are available. People to know that the resources are there. I'm envious, I'm jealous of the things that are available now because they weren't there before. Not at all. My transition was a piece of cake only because I went right into another government type agency. And I'll say that, Northrop Grumman. It's just like being in the military.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
They all dominated, and you had to work 3 times as hard to prove yourself. But once they knew I knew what I was doing, it was great. But again, the programs that they have now, Pathfinders, it's just it's wonderful. It's like, wow. So being on the base now, I encourage young sailors at the Navy base, hey, if you're gonna get out, try this, because there's a lot. And I don't know what we need to do as far as getting one little compact thing that they can know about all these programs. Because that's one of the things, a lot don't know about the programs. So
I'll say also, me coming out now recently in November, that was a big struggle for me. So how I found Northeast Florida Women Veterans was simply by going to Google and saying, because I knew I needed to speak to other females that I can relate to so that I could get myself out of my circle. And I Googled female veteran programs, and this came up, and I said, oh, that sounds interesting. And I went in there, and from this organization is how I learned about all others, Wounded Warrior Project, Pathfinders, like you said, all these others. So I think, going back to your question on what do I think at least needs to be done, first, do I believe that we need more programs out there diverse to women? Yes. But I do think that we have a good selection right now. And really, all of the technology that we have today, I think it really needs to be put out there more. So that and like you said, on the basis, when we're transitioning out, now they have, I don't know about the other branches, but now the Navy has a transition program. So what they're teaching you about VA, about health, about this and that. Okay, how about integrating a list of places that you can go to when these places don't work out for you? Because it doesn't always work out. So where can I go for that resource, right? And like you said, there are a lot. and I'm learning, and I've found a lot of them now. I didn't, and this is recent.
Right.
And they are out there. So I think really for us is more getting that out there, using the technology we have today to get to those that are already still active in service, that they start to learn and know that when they get out, there are resources.
That's great information. So we have to be intentional before we get out.
Absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
once we get out, we have to do the research, because one thing about Northeast Florida, there's a lot of resources for veterans. However, if you go north, go into the lower southern Georgia, they don't have those same resources other than Kings Bay. But when you go further up, before you get to Fort Stewart, there's a gap. So they usually come here to Jacksonville to
Yeah.
get the resources that they need. So depending on where you live, find your closest city and find those resources. Do the internet search. You're gonna have to do the work, because there are a lot of resources out there. Or you may be the one that needs to start an organization, to be the one that be the catalyst for your community. So just think about that, because there are resources out there. Thank you so much, ladies. I have another question for you. And again, this has been so informative. By the year 2032, we will have 14% of the women coming out of the military will account for 14% of veterans, compared to the percentage now at 10%. According to the VA National Center for Veteran Analysis and Statistics. With so many women coming out and going in, but going in and coming out of the military, what guidance would you give to a current or future woman in the military?
Use the VA. The VA had gotten a really bad rap, maybe rightly, but I have had excellent service from the VA, but it wasn't easy. I had to ask, go back several times and ask again, but they now know there's women. They know there's women veterans. I'll go into the VA and oh, thank you for your service. And you served how many years? And then I have not had any issues whatsoever with any of my doctors, but use it. Use the VA. I'm not gonna go to the VA. It's free. Have you looked at medical costs lately? No. Again, so it's a great resource. And if you're looking at the news here lately, guess where the money went? Military and VA. So they're gonna have more programs, but they need to know what we need. So when there's a survey out there, please do it. That's what do that survey. Just tell them what you need. Again, it has grown over the years. I can't say anything negative about the VA now. 5 years ago, yeah. But anyway, okay. So again, use your resources.
Right. From my standpoint, I would say, make sure that you reach out to mental health. And I speak to it, again, because we have a tendency as females thinking that we can handle everything that comes to us. Amanda was saying, I thought I could handle this and do this. No, it's okay to ask for help. We are all here to help each other, and I've seen that throughout this organization and many other, we do things like boots on the ground and stuff like that, especially here in Jacksonville. And there's many organizations throughout the US now that are reaching out and doing for each other, as veterans. So, and we have civilian counterparts also that are actually collaborating with us, to make that change and to make that transition a lot easier. So when we're talking about reaching out, please reach out to somebody, somebody knows somebody. And, we're not gonna, especially this organization, I know for a fact, they're not just gonna leave you and say, okay, go here, go there, and this is all you get. We try to help each other from a holistic standpoint. So you come in, you'll get clothes, you'll get food, you can get, mental health resources, medical resources, you'll always know. And that's what they were talking about, being able to have some place that you can get everything that you need. And, it's not necessarily you're going to get the service at the same place, but you're going to be able to know where you need to go, and that's the hardest part, is knowing where to go and having somebody explain it to you from military to civilian. Okay.
That's huge.
You know, that's the biggest part. Well, what do you do? What am I gonna do? And so those are the questions that come about that you have that, oh God, and you get scared, you know, there's people that get scared and they say that. They're scared, I don't know, and I don't know who to ask, I don't know where to go, you know, and they'll reach out to people. But be one of those advocates, you know, anybody that's out there that knows something, be one of those that you can say, you know what, I know this organization, just reach out. And just one phone call alone can gear you to where you need to go. So just make sure that you ask for help and feed your needs, your own needs as a female veteran, as a veteran, period.
Yes.
Feed your own needs, you know, because if you're healthy, then everybody else around you will be healthy and you'll be able to help others. So just keep that in mind.
And I'm just learning that, to be honest, because I give, and I finally just said, you know what, it's time to give to me.
Right.
Okay, time. And as a senior person in the military, I didn't tell anybody that I needed, you know? So the resources are there, and just be open and go out there and take advantage of those resources. I'm glad you mentioned mental health. Y'all know I'm crazy, so. Anyway, so I'm just saying, you know, whatever you need, make sure you let people know
Yeah.
of that need. Again, as a senior person, I'm not going to
You don't
anybody
need
help.
help, but I think the big key is,
You know, but
yeah, you
I
can do it
finally-
yourself, but you don't have to.
Right.
No.
Right.
You don't need to do it yourself.
Yes.
I didn't want
Yeah.
people, and I'm finally
To see
taking
a
that
witness.
mask
Mhm.
off.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that leadership
That's
role and that
Yes.
mask that everybody has. I was an admiral, I was a petty officer, I was a chief, I was this. That bears no relevance as to your own personal healing. So it's okay, even your churches for that matter, you know, reach out to somebody that's actually gonna advocate for you and then advocate for yourself more than anything. You know, it's okay to be not okay, and then it's okay to still go and ask for help. You know, no matter what rank, whatever, you know,
Exactly.
you help in the military.
I think a lot of us need to learn how to embrace our journey,
Mhm.
and it's messy sometimes. When we reach out and let our other women veterans know, I am struggling over here. It is so empowering to hear, I'm not the only one that thinks this way, I'm not the only one that feels this way, and I'm not the only one that's been through this type of situation.
Exactly.
So the more we come together and lift each other up and guide each other through these and around these difficulties, the stronger our community is and the stronger the legacy becomes that we leave. So
Exactly.
reach out and let each other know what we're going through.
One else would like to provide guidance before we close? Well, ladies, thank you so much, and you're so correct. Mental health, emotional health, support, and of course, mentors. Ms. Lee is one of my mentors. You may not know it, but she is. So I put that out there now. But thank you so much, ladies, for just giving your time today, expressing your journey, your challenges, your joys, your experiences. We thank you for your service, and we thank you for continuing to give into our community today. Do you have any last words before we close? And it's okay if you don't.
You know, my last word would simply just be to help each other, you know, reach out there and help each other. More than anything, if you know something, please do not stay silent. You know, say you know something. You know, Veronica had tapped into one thing that said, you know, before the VA wasn't this, but now it's like that. You know, some people feel that way, but it's still okay. You know, you may have a bad experience, but don't give up. Reach back out to the organization. Sometimes it's not the organization itself, it's the people within the organization. So keep that in mind. So a year from now, a month from now, a week from now, you know, somebody has got promoted, somebody went somewhere else, reach out, ask the question. Do not give up. That's my whole, leave here with, do not give up. And we are here to help, you know, each other grow, build, you know, do not give up.
That's what I was gonna say, just stay connected.
Mm-hmm.
Stay connected, because that is so empowering. In the military, we feel that we are connected. You know, a lot of times it's the only family that you have.
Yes.
And when you walk away, when you get out of the military, you can be struggling with, okay, you know, who am I now and who do I have? But in reality, although, you know, what we say, you know, in the military and from where I'm from, once a chief, always a chief. Well, once a veteran, always a veteran. And just know that, you know, you're no longer serving, but you are still a part of us. You know,
Yeah.
you're still our family, we're still family. So stay connected. You're never alone. We'll always have someone to lean on and to, you know, and to be there for you.
Exactly.
Well, perfectly said. You are not alone. You have a family, you have support. So make sure you are tapping into your local resources. And if you don't have any local resources, then get on the internet, research, and find someone that can help. There's resources nationwide, and you can always contact Northeast Florida Women Veterans. They always have something for you. So thank you for joining us for our 2023 Her Voices segment, and we hope to see you again.